Welcome back to another episode of Biters, the Southgate Media Group official podcast for The Walking Dead and all things zombie. After a 6-week hiatus, we have returned.
Yeah.
I am one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick. I am the writer of the self-published comic book Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, as well as a screenwriter.
I am Kirk Manley, and I'm an illustrator and artist on the Z-Girl and the Four Tigers comic book that Jeff and I both co-created.
So we are back for the second half of season 4 of Walking Dead. It seemed like forever.
Oh my God, it was long.
Before we got back to it.
Yeah.
Before we get into talking about the episode, though, a couple things have happened in the past few weeks. One is that Southgate Media Group has picked up some sponsors, which is always nice. And just wanted to talk about the two of them in particular for our listeners to check out. One is Tweaked Audio. These guys make some really cool earbuds for iPods and iPhones. And they've got a deal with listeners that if you go on their website, you can access their website through the Biters, through our podcast site, the Biters site, as well as Southgate Media site. If you order if you order something from them and you put the coupon code Southgate, one word, you'll get 30% off of your order.
Damn.
That's a lot. And their buds are cool too. They're not really ridiculously expensive, probably like $19.99 to like $29.95.
Wow, so 30% off is going to be nice. I have one stupid question. Do they have any correlation or connection to Twitter, or is tweet just a name that they chose to?
No, it's tweaked as in
tweak. I thought you said tweet.
No, tweaked audio as in like you're a heroin addict.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm not sure that really helps promote your product.
That's right.
It came to mind.
Oh boy.
And then the other one is a great site. I know, Kirk, you've probably been there in the past. I know I have. Is Entertainment Earth.
Oh, you had me worried there.
Yes, we haven't gotten any of those sites yet, but. This is being family entertainment.
That's right. That's right. Keep it clean, brother.
But no, Entertainment Earth has great.
Yeah, it's a good site. It's a good site.
Stuff for. When you click on their link on our site, they'll take you to all the Walking Dead toys and collectibles that they have. I personally, I can't go to their site because my credit card has a way of jumping out of my wallet. And, automatically fills in. I can't go to their site without spending at least, I don't know, a couple $100 on stuff that I...
Yeah, I've bought statues from them. I've bought trade paperbacks from them. It's a good site. It's great for everything, geek related.
Absolutely. So if you're a, Walking Dead fan and you want to get a Daryl action figure or statue or catch up on the graphic novels, that's the place to go. All right.
I see up on their front page, they have a Daryl Dixon versus 6 Walkers action play set. It's almost like, remember the little military soldiers, plastic military soldiers we used to have when we were kids? It's that kind of a setup, and they've got some environmental pieces as well as 6 zombies. He's in the middle, ready to duke it out with them. So pretty cool.
See, that everybody should have one of those.
Absolutely.
Or a couple. So get your Christmas shopping done early there. Okay, so we come back to this new
premiere,
the premiere for the second half of the season.
I'm gonna interrupt one before we get started on the show. I also wanted to point out or mention one other thing and say both Jeff and I know are very thankful to Jason and Karen of the award-winning Walking Dead podcast, who they had us on recently, where we got a chance to talk about Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, our comic book, zombies and comics in general, and the best was talking about our hopes and dreams for the second half of season 4. of The Walking Dead, and it was just a total blast, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh man, we had a great time, and I believe it's episode 131, and it's called apropos enough, Z Girls and Z Guys is the, that's the name of the episode. But you guys should definitely go check it out. We hope we can reciprocate soon and have both Jason and Karen on our show. Maybe for the season finale. I don't know, something cool like that.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. So before Kirk and I start talking about the show, I just want to talk about the demographics on it. So this they came. So the Olympics are going on, but you probably wouldn't know because Walking Dead like stomped on them. The ratings, 15.8 million viewers. Which is just a little bit shy of the record of 16.1, which was the season 4 premiere in October. And they say that if you factor in the delayed viewing, people watching on DVRs and stuff, T+3 I think it is, they figure it's probably 20 million viewers watched this premiere. So
it's amazing.
Walking Dead, still killing it in the ratings.
It's a tank. It's a tank.
Yeah, what comes after it, The Talking Dead had a new premiere high itself with 5.9 million viewers. It was
excellent. The Talking Dead was excellent afterwards. It had Denai on it as well as Greg Nicotero, and it was really good.
On the other side, we saw the report came out yesterday that Frank Darabont's Mob City was over on TNT. I think they showed it as it was 6 hours. It was 6 hours, and they showed it in 3 2-hour blocks. Scott Malkus and I talked about it over on our companion podcast, the Disturbed podcast. We talked about it one day. It was pretty dull. We got to say it was pretty boring, and TNT's canceled it. So. Kirk, I showed it to Kirk yesterday. Kirk's like, yeah, those guys over at
the producers at AMC are like, I told you, score. Hey, I just wanted to come back to the ratings for a minute. I sent you an email, but I've got it up here, so I'll read from it. The 15.8 you just read was for this season, mid-season premiere.
Right.
And you were pointing out that it was just shy of the 16.1, which was the season 4 premiere.
Right.
Not the mid, it was the premiere, right? So that was the biggest to date. I'm looking at, they've got on this article, and this article is the Hollywood Reporter, TV ratings, The Walking Dead outperforms Winter Olympics. They went through and gave all the premieres and mid-season premieres and the finales and all of the ratings. And I'm looking at these, and this mid-season premiere was the highest of any other mid-season premiere or premiere other than season 4's premiere, which was the 16.1. I don't know if that's making any sense, but the point being that that's the highest mid-season premiere yet.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's confounding people. I saw an article someone wrote the other day. Was it Rolling Stone? Somebody wrote an article basically that said that Hollywood executives should look at Walking Dead, need to kind of study the dynamics of The Walking Dead because too often, well, first of all, you're 4 years into a show and your ratings are going up. You're getting more and more eyeballs, which doesn't happen.
Right.
You come back from a hiatus. Hiatus in a regular TV show and a network show is kind of a momentum killer. You come back from hiatus here, and you've got higher numbers than you've ever had before.
Yeah.
There was something else that they were talking about how shows instead of investing in character, they invest in characters, meaning that you take a show like we're about to talk about here, where you just had the focal point on just a couple characters, and really get to know those characters and flesh them out and
Right.
and develop them. Whereas everybody else, you start to do something like, say, on like Lost or some other show, and there's a need, a compulsion almost to throw, wait, hold on, we got to throw Hurley in, and we've got to throw Sawyer in, and there's got to be this one. Pretty soon, you started off with a Jack-centric episode, and now you've got 8 other characters in there, so you lose that focus. It was just an interesting article, and I think that AMC is just, they're just high on themselves right now, rightly so too, for such a juggernaut show. And I think that there's a lot of other studios that are going to try to figure out how to emulate the success that they've got.
Well, and they've had such success with this show, but also, Breaking Bad is, probably some of the best television ever. And then Mad Men. And it's not like this is the only thing they've ever done. So they really are setting a trend. Just to recap on that article, season 2 mid-season premiere was 8 million, 8.1. Season 3 mid-season premiere was 12.3. So this is just, like you said, to your point, it's just continuing to grow. Mike, I have a question though for us to think about, or for you to see what your opinion is. The show is great and deserves the attention and the focus that it's getting, and AMC is great and all that. But to your point, it just continues to build more momentum. Do you think that it's purely because of the show and the acting and the writing and everything else? Do you think it's the subject matter? Do you think there's something sociologically happening that this is striking a chord? Is it because no TV network has ever done anything like this before, and they're not shying away from the violence and the disparity and all that? Is it all of these things mixed together? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's a combination of all those. One of the things is that I think what you had in the beginning, when you had people who weren't, first of all, word of mouth is driving a lot of people to watch it. I mean, anywhere you go, you run into people who, I don't normally watch that stuff. I don't watch zombies or horror, but I watch The Walking Dead. And I think it's because zombies they're there, but they're not the central focus of this. This is what's that book? The Kids on the Island.
Lord of the Flies?
Yeah, it's Lord of the Flies with adults in a possible future in reality. And I think that there's seeing how people are going to react or how they're going to act when put in that kind of situation. I think it's the characters that are so compelling to viewers, and that's what brings them back.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with you. I also would add that I think we're at this is one of those times in history that you think back and say, you look back at it and say, oh my gosh, I remember when that was going on. I'm not explaining this well, but like, I think, being where we are worldwide in terms of things like climate change and conflicts with governments, wars, all that, the way sociologically where we are now is there's a lot of preoccupation with apocalyptic futures. There's a plot, it's popping up in writing all the time. The books are real popular, TV shows, movies, look at Oblivion and all these other shows, Elysium. It just seems like that is very much part of the human condition right now.
Right.
I'm sure we'll look back at this 20 years from now or 30 years from now, just like we do now about the 50s and certain periods, or the 60s, and the anti-war movement and peace, love, dove, and all that stuff. This is kind of like its own phenomena that seems to be happening, and they've tapped it. And thankfully, they're doing it. There other shows have tried. What's the show that's on NBC or Revolution?
Yeah.
Is that it? I mean,
yeah.
Come on. You can't even put it in the same category. You know what I mean? It's all sanitized and everything else. I mean, it's their ball to drop, and they're doing a great job of not dropping it. They're continuing to be faithful to the book and to be faithful to the disparity that they show and the honesty in terms of the portrayal of the violence and the real experience that these people are having. And I think that keeps people on board. But I'm wondering if this isn't also a factor of where we are right now, society-wise.
And that's a good point. If you stack up any two shows, if you stack up a network show versus something that's on a cable show, there's a massive difference. You've seen Breaking Bad. Watch Breaking Bad versus The Blacklist or The Following, and it's, oh my gosh, you're not even in the same category. And Revolution was kind of tried to play in the same sphere as Walking Dead, but like you said, it was too sanitized. It was too pretty. It was too unbelievable. One of the things that Kirk, for people who hadn't listened to the Walking Dead cast, Kirk admitted that he's now 10 years after the fact almost going back and going through Lost. He's experiencing the Lost phenomenon.
I was having my kids right then, so that's a priority. Now I can, it is. I'm just enamored with that show. I mean, we're in season 3 now, and you can see that. I've heard different. I've heard a lot about the show from you and from Scott and from other friends of ours and stuff. So I'm certainly spoiled in a lot of regard, and I can see what people are saying. I mean, I still think it's great. Season 3 definitely there's some change in the way it was written and some of the storytelling, but I'm really enjoying the first 2 seasons. Were just mind blowing.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because Lost lasted six seasons.
6.
So at the end of 6 seasons, you had people who were, there were all kinds of articles around the internet about people who were just lost. They had gone, literally lost because the show was over. Now they had nothing to do on Thursday nights. And oh my gosh, there was such a mythology involved, and you were really engaged in the show. And so when the next show, and I know there was one that started and it failed. I think a couple more started after that and failed because viewers didn't want to get into something again. They just gave up 6 years of their life to this, baby. They didn't want to invest themselves in another one. So then you got The Walking Dead. So the finale of Lost was May 23rd, 2010. So here we are almost 4 years later, and 3.5 seasons into a new show, and we've got viewership going up as the show progresses. Right. And I just I'm looking at the numbers for Lost, which was, pretty much quintessential TV at the time. Season 1, the premiere had a little over 18.5 million viewers, and the finale had almost 21 million viewers. Then you come back for season 2. Season 2 had 23.5 million viewers, but then it dropped off. It went from 23 to roughly 18, and then the next season went from 18 to 13. I mean, the finale for season 5 was 9.5 million viewers.
Oh my gosh.
So at the end so you start this whole thing, 18.7 million viewers on the premiere in 2004, and then on the finale in May 2010, you had 13.5 million viewers coming in to see, well, how's it all wrap up?
Yeah, right. Well,
so clearly, you see the ups and downs, and people probably around season 3 started going, oh, this is just too much for me, and there's drops, people dropping off. Walking Dead, 3.5 years in, it's not slowing down.
Well, I wonder too if Walking Dead started off a little bumpy, and because of fan commitment to it and everything else, the show survived, and it just continues to get better. Whereas Lost started out, at least from my experience for the first 3 seasons, like just mind-numbingly good the first season and the second season, and then started to fade off a little bit in terms of the quality. So, as a result, the fans lost. Here, you've got the exact opposite, as it picks up steam, more and more, like you said, word of mouth is bringing more and more people on board. But, the only other thing I wanted to mention just about Lost, it's like not really related to this, to Walking Dead, although I guess in some ways it is. But boy, I had no idea how much they were trend setting. I mean, I've watched all of Breaking Bad, and saw that, and I've started watching The Wire, and some of the stuff that you see in the way that they did things, I thought was like completely new, but they did that in Lost. first. Like for instance, there's this opening sequence in season 2, I think, with Desmond, who's down in the hatch, and the show opens up and he's getting up. You don't see his face, but you just see him, getting ready and working out, exercising, eating, right? And you hear this funky. It's not funky. It's like happy '60s type music going, And I was like, we were watching, like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? And then of course later he comes back and you find out all about what that is. That was so Breaking Bad. It was so Breaking Bad. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't think Lost, as much credit as Lost gets for being an exceptional show, I'm not sure it's getting the credit that it should get for how much it's affected some of the most amazing TV that's come after. But
it definitely set it definitely was a trendsetter when it came out, and you saw and you would see a lot. Just as you see with everything that's successful, whether it's Harry Potter, whether it's Hunger Games, you see all these derivatives that came off it, and everybody was trying to go, hey, it's just like Lost, but with mannequins, and so
with chipmunks. All right. Well, should we talk about the episode or what?
I think we should talk about the episode.
It's been a great podcast. Catch you next week.
Our listeners are like, what in the world?
Shut up, you bastards, and talk about the show.
I'm canceling my drug addict audio order. Sorry, Tweak, just kidding. Okay, so those of you who've not heard our podcast before, Kirk and I like to take it from the good, the bad, and the ugly standpoint, and kind of dissected the episode in that way, as opposed to just going beat by beat what happened. So
at episode 9, it's titled After,
which for those of you who've forgotten, if your memory's as short term as Kirk's usually is, this is coming off of the big prison finale from the first half of the season. There was the tank that I was so happy to see. We saw basically our group just got split. The zombies infiltrated the prison, swarmed the prison. The governor and his people swarmed the prison, and everything just came apart. All the wheels came apart. So we come back into this episode. Clearly, we're watching Carl and Rick go one direction. We catch up with Michonne, who's gone another direction. And from the previews we've seen for next week, we're going to see what happens to some of the other survivors of the prison. But so this is the aftermath. So what was your good about this episode? What did you like about this episode?
My good was that it was, and this is not usually something I see as good, but I really enjoyed it in this episode. It was a slow burn episode, in my opinion. It was not, you kind of expect a premiere to be like, going to knock your socks off, and they've certainly had those in terms of action and then, wild, crazy stuff going on, and they, this was much more of a slow burn. It was much more about the characterization issues, the character development, the relationship between Rick and Carl, the evolution of Michonne from where she had, come to in terms of being able to open up and connect with other people, back down into this crash to the, where she was the first time we met her, when she walked up to Andrea, and she's basically shut the world out, and then slowly, to use Denai's own words from the Talking Dead interview, metabolizes all of this pain and this grief that she's going through, and decides to choose life. So, I just, I thought it was well done in that it was a nice slow burn instead of, bam, 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 bam. I think another good was continuing to show instead of tell. We had, again, another great episode of not monologue after monologue. We didn't hear Rick lecturing Carl. We didn't, what I mean? We got to see Carl act out, be rude to his old man, to, express his anger about everything that's been going on with him, and then, try to survive on his own and eventually come to the realization that he loves his dad and doesn't want his dad to, be out of his life yet, so, but again, none of that was through these long diatribes or monologues, which which is just something it seems like Gimple has really got and really is continuing, and I'm really glad to see. The emphasis was back on simple survival, which is always so agonizing and frustrating, after the prison, I think, and it just really came across. And I think that I felt the anger that Carl had, being as being very sincere and real of a teenager or a 12-year-old. What little life he had was just ripped out. All these people that he cared about are gone. His old man is practically dead. And he couldn't protect them, and he couldn't prevent that from happening. And he needs a place to vent that. And I think a lot of times kids do that. They vent it towards their parents. And so Rick has to take it on the chin, for the whole first half of the episode,
Right.
And, so those are the things I thought were good. I've got a bunch of other little points, but that was my main good.
So,
what about you?
Well, the episode surprised me because your slow burn comment is spot on, and I know why it happened, and I wish it hadn't happened. I wish it hadn't happened because coming back from, I can't remember, 5-6 weeks off, I wanted something. You're coming back into the show. I wanted the tenor, the flavor that we kind of feel for what's coming next episode. I wanted that this episode. I've been off for 6 weeks. I want to, bring me back into it. I didn't want this kind of slow burn, and I'm trying to. One of us is going to try to be live tweeting during each episode. So follow us on Twitter on @Biters Podcast, and and we'll keep like a conversation going or whatever. But somebody on Twitter had made a comment which I thought was pretty funny. The last time they saw this much walking in something, it was in the Lord of the Rings. So they haven't seen this much walking since Lord of the Rings, and it was totally true. But I understand why they did it, and the reason why they did it, even though it was basically a standalone episode, right? Everything is self-contained. And the reason why they did it is because when this gets packaged onto a DVD, right, you're going to have the entire season. Well, you just came off of that big event, the big prison event. Well, now you need an episode that calms everything down, slows it down a little bit, lets you recharge your batteries and catch your breath, and then we're going to start picking it back up. So I understand why this fits where it fits, but I wanted more out of this episode. Like I wanted you to grab me by the throat and pull me back into this universe.
Right.
For me, the best part about it was the Michonne stuff, specifically the scene with her flashback where she's in the kitchen and she's got her boyfriend / lover and her brother sitting there. First of all, the interaction between the three of them was hysterical, and just it was jarring to see. Yeah. First of all, Denai is a beautiful, beautiful woman. I mean, she's just, she's very attractive with the dreadlocks and all that, but man, when she's not,
Okay, calm down, boy. Calm down.
All right. Let me just take a minute. No. But anyway, so I love that scene. I love the way it was filmed. I loved the cutaways, so that when she's cutting and they're talking about an art exhibit, and then she takes a knife and she washes it off, right? She wipes it off, and then next time you see it in her hand, it's been turned into the katana.
Right.
The katana.
Yeah.
And then when I thought was hysterical is when she takes it and she slides it into the Cutco, knife block, into the on the countertop. And then again, it was just as the scene unfolds, she's got the baby, right? Which we surmise, and I'd like to say that we were ahead of the curve on that, but I'm pretty sure everybody kind of surmised that from that earlier episode where she broke down with baby Judith, that she had a thing. Oh, I'll take credit for that. Well, I'll take credit for both of us on that. So, but then we see her interaction with the other two guys, and I think the coolest thing, the coolest oh crap moment was when you get to the end and she goes, I only just have one question. Who's going to open the wine, or who's going to, uncork the wine? And they don't have their arms. You're like, holy crap, those were her toys, her original toys.
Right.
So, and the way, again, to go back to something you said before, the show don't tell,
Yes.
the way it was done, it could very well have been, and not to keep bringing up Lost or to throw Lost under the bus, but it could have just been a flashback that just happened for no reason.
Right.
But the way it was a flashback, but it got twisted in with her own, the memories and what she's going through now. And then all of a sudden she startles awake on the front seat of a truck. Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that scene.
I agree. I agree. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a great decision. I'm sure they probably went back and forth about whether to do a flashback or whether to do the dream. And I think the choice of the dream, for exactly the reasons you said, it was an excellent choice, because it gave them the chance to visually express the chaos or the evolution that was going on in her mind, all this processing of this grief. This isn't the first time she's lost people that she cared about, this prison. And in fact, the people she lost the first time were even more painful, and something she had, chosen to forget about it. She can no longer, keep out. And I just think that I agree with you. I think that visually was really cool. It also made it very scary. I mean, as it started to de-evolve or become crazy, you didn't know how far it was going to go, and that was very tension building, I thought. So yeah.
And the two actors who were in there that played the two guys, they especially the guy who played Mike, he sold it really well.
Yeah.
He sold the playful boyfriend in the beginning, right. And then you cut away. When you cut back, he's a little bit more somber. When you cut back, he's this. And that guy did a fantastic job as well.
Yep.
And I hope coming up, so later on we see her as she's tracking, Carl and Rick, and she gets to the store with Joe and Joe Jr.'s barbecue, and she's, when she talks about Mike and it wasn't you that did that, and she talks about the camp, and she's alluding to the nasty stuff that happened with those two guys, as well as the baby, her baby, and it's creepy enough. I want it to stop there. I don't want to know. I hope they don't go later on. Oh yeah, this guy Mike, he did this with it. I don't want to know. Leave it right there. I'm scared enough for you, and you have all of my pain. I'm with you right there. Leave it right there. That's what I hope they do.
I don't think they'll go much further. I don't think they'll go. You mean like in terms of more flashbacks or something?
Either that, or somewhere down the line when she's got to have there's got to be a heart to heart between her and maybe Maggie or somebody. We got Michonne's backstory. I'm satisfied enough with most of Michonne's backstory, except how she got that katana, or But other than that, good. You guys did well. Move on.
There was some people, I guess I didn't catch it really, but I guess there were some people I was reading online in the sequence where she talks in the barbecue to herself.
Yeah.
That she implies that basically the two of them killed themselves at their camp or something.
I watched that scene. I've watched that scene twice since the premiere. Interesting. I didn't get that.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing, and it was interesting too, because the discussion in her dream was about, at the end, was about like he was kind of like angry at her for being good with the sword, and the implication kind of being that she's got some ability, she's got some purpose, she's got some value in this new
Yes.
In this new apocalyptic world, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
So that combined with what was said in the barbecue, I guess people were thinking that maybe they checked out because they couldn't handle it. But then the question is, what happened to the baby? So I think we will probably get a little bit more, probably not so much about the two of them as much as the two pets, the lover and the friend, but more about what happened with the baby.
Yeah.
Maybe they took the baby with them, when they took themselves out or something. I don't know, but I think there'll be a little bit more there, my guess. But yeah, I agree. I thought that was great. And I also agree that as much as I thought the Carl and Rick's storyline was strong, I agree with you. I think that the Michonne storyline of this, which was the kind of secondary story, was the superior one.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to kick off the second part. I'm going to kick off the bad because unless you got anything else to add to the good.
No, go ahead.
All right, so my bad is the Carl story. Because Carl starts the episode off really strong, and I really like him. And as we've talked about before, I did not like Carl probably for the first 2 seasons. I thought he was a whiny little brat, and I just wasn't impressed with him. Last season, season 3, I really started to take to him. This was a kid who really started to come into his own. And we saw the relationship, and especially at the prison, when he was, left to guard the prison, in that section of the protect the sick side.
Right.
And he really came in. The moments of bonding that he had with his dad, whether it was out playing, Farmer Green Jeans or, when he's got the gun and they're holding off the zombies.
The M16, yeah.
That was great, okay? And even the beginning of this episode, again, I was watching, the Twitter feed going through, and people were pretty much lighting Carl up because he was, he's walking ahead of his father, and Rick's like, Carl, slow down, and he's just being kind of petulant again. But I get it. You just lost your sister. You just lost the prison. Your whole world just got turned upside down, and you barely got out. You and your dad. So I get it. I'm fine with that. The problem I had, and I also defended him because Rick was just such a mama. Just like you got to stay here and don't do that and watch your mouth. And I love when he said watch your language or something. And
yeah.
And Carl's just kind of like, what?
Really?
Like, are you serious?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. And so I'm down with him there. But then there's a point where he just turns into, and I get that he's trying to show Rick, look, I'm a man. You've got to trust me, And I get that. And it seemed like at some point, probably after when they got to the house, where the everything that they had done that had made Rick or Carl a strong character, they started to unwind, and the whole turning him into. I get that this is a childhood that's being destroyed. He doesn't have the childhood. You saw his eyes light up when he saw those Xbox 360 games, right? But then he catches the reflection of himself, and it was just like, no, welcome back to reality, chump. Yeah. But the way he handled it, I would rather that he had instead of kind of like. Stomp out like a petulant kid. I would rather that he had gone out and tried to prove that he could, that he was the man now, that he could do this, and he had the perfect opportunity. His dad's laying quote unquote dead on the, or in a coma or whatever. His dad's out on the couch. Well, that's Carl's, all of a sudden, hey, you've just been handed the baton of responsibility, kiddo. What are you going to do? And that should be his moment. Okay, look, I got to protect dad, got to protect myself, got to go find food, blah, blah, blah. Goes out and, even the little thing when he beats the 3 zombies at the end and he was just like, I won, the little 7-year-old coming out, I think it would have satisfied me better and made Carl seem less that it was that time of month for him if he had gone out and he was trying to prove that he was a man, that look, I can handle this. I got this. And then he goes out and he's over his head. And then at the end, it's like, you know what? I am, I'm not there yet. The kid's a veteran, for crying out loud. He's 3.5 years, in our time, he's 3.5 years into this thing. The stuff that he's seen, the stuff that he's done, that's not the Carl we saw in this episode.
Okay. My bad is that I think people's reaction to Carl has been overly negative. I think that I agree with everything you said, but I just don't see that as a negative. I think that I thought it was a pretty realistic portrayal of a 12-year-old. Given everything they've been through, and I think that the story really what you had was you had this kid who sees himself as an adult, and this father who sees his really almost adult kid, given what he's gone through and all the growth he's had to experience, everything else.
Right.
He sees him as a child.
Yep.
And you had to get the two of them to reverse their positions by the end of the episode, which they do. And Carl kind of realizes, I need my father. I'm not completely ready yet to be out on my own. And you get the father saying, you're an adult. You're a man now. And I got to stop treating you like a child. And I think that was the point of that whole story. And I think that they did a good job of that. I think the arc starts out, like you said, he won't slow down he's being petulant. He's being rude. He's being obnoxious. He's being 12. You know what I mean? He's acting out all of his anger. He's taking it out on his old man who's already had the shit beat out of him. Excuse me, my adult language there. But anyway, so yeah, I think that, and then when he does go out and tries to, prove to himself that, he can defend himself and be an adult, he practically gets killed twice. And, I think there's this little realization that in his own mind, I'm not quite there yet, even though I thought I was. And, but at the same time, he is a lot further than his father was giving him credit for. And I think his father finally comes to that realization. So, I think people are being a little too harsh on it. So, from my point of view, I thought that was done pretty well. And, I thought it was pretty realistic. And I thought I thought it was pretty consistent with the character.
See, in a couple of places where it really stuck out at me that I just kind of questioned was first of all, Carl versus the front door.
Come on, that was hilarious, man.
The kid doesn't even like try the doorknob, and
that was like a perfect, that was like, this is how a big guy does it. This is how, a man does it. He doesn't walk up and check the lock. He kicks the door down and boom, he's on the ground, It's like, oh man, I can't do that.
Either that or that one and the playing tag with the zombies where, hey, come on, let's go for a walk, and he lures them away from the house. Right. It was too much of a kid. It was too much of this veteran, like I said, acting like a child. I wanted him to be a little bit more. I wanted him to be. I was thinking about it in the car today. Who were the two girls that Carol was taking care of at the prison?
Lizzie and I can't remember the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, so those two, wasn't there a scene in during the prison when they were doing something or they said something and it was clearly juvenile or it was clearly like their age and Carl happened to be there and he kind of admonished them.
Yeah, he snapped at him, right?
Right. Okay. That's the Carl I wanted to see in this episode. I wanted Carl to go out there and be like, "Hey, you know what? This is what my dad would do. This is what an adult does, and be smart about stuff. Yes, absolutely, get tripped up. Yes, absolutely, almost die because you're in over your head. You're 12 or however old he's supposed to be. Yes, you're in over your head. I think it was approached in the wrong way. And I think that one of the things is I was reading an interview with that they had with Kirkman, who wrote this episode. He tried to this episode apparently huged really close to issue 50 or 51.
Yeah, in fact, that is one of the things I was going to talk about is that there in the news section is that there's this great article over at thewalkingdead.com by Brian Huntington, and it's called Panel to Screen Comparison, and it's of episode. I think it's of all the episodes, but this one, the episode 409, Panel to Screen Comparison, and yeah, it was 50, I think, and he puts up pages next to screenshots, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, probably one of the most faithful to date. I didn't even realize, and I just reread that recently. But that sequence, for instance, like with the zombie pile-on, that was right out of the comic. He's leading him backwards. He's shooting him in the head. They fall on him. They shoots another one, falls on him, shoots on him, and another one falls on him, and he's underneath this pile of them. I mean, that was right from the comic. There's a bunch of that. No pudding, though. There was no pudding.
No, I don't remember the pudding. I mean, the comment, he was like, I ate 112 ounces of pudding.
Yeah, and I like your tweet on that, by the
way. hopefully you went and found some Charmin to go with it. But I think that this argument that we've had this discussion, argument, conflict that we've had between Rick and Carl about you being a man and coming to your own right. We've seen this before. How many times before have we seen it? At least once a season. And like, hopefully this will be the last time we're going to see something like this, which I don't think we will. But I think that for the longest time, the show was The Walking Dead, but it didn't hew to the comic book, right? So along the lines, you have Carl, who goes from annoying to a strong character. I think Carl, I haven't gone back and read the first 50 issues again, but I think Carl in the comic book never struck me as, Carl in the comic book was always more realistic than, less annoying than Carl in the show. And I think what happened was you built him up, you made him a solid character. You made him that Carl in the comic book in the show up to this point, but then you, in order to yank the steering wheel back into the lane to kind of match the comic, which is cool and all, you undid some of the stuff that you did before. You undid the strength. Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. I would express it a little differently in that I think that in the comic, he looks younger. He just the way he was drawn, he comes across looking more like 9 or 10. Right. And in the show, the actor is grown, and he's starting to look like a teenager now. And they've put him through things like, sitting there with the M16 taking out row after row after row of zombies. So, you're kind of, yes, I agree with you. They've kind of conditioned you to think that this kid is very close to being adult. In the comic book, when this happens, he's nowhere near that. It's more like a child left on his own while his father's passed out. Much more like The Road. You read The Road, right? Yep. And, how horrifying that was. I mean, when this old man is, especially when he was dying, he doesn't know what's going to happen and everything. And, I think the show, that works against the show, the portrayal in this episode because of the fact that he is so much more grown. But it didn't bother me. I think the message was still the same. I agree with you that they've kind of had the same conflict going on between Rick and Carl for a while, but I think that again, it's also realistic. I don't think, as a teenager's going through that expression of their individuality and their desire to be independent and yet also still be a child, that just doesn't stop overnight. It's kind of, it gets better, it gets worse, gets better, it gets worse, or at least that's what I anticipate from my own kids. So, but,
and I'll give you that, except that it's got to change a little bit when you're in a zombie apocalypse.
And I agree, and I think it's going to change from here on. And I think that was why this episode was important and why it's different than the other portrayals of this. And I think that the big difference is Rick's final words to him on the couch when he says, "I've been treating you like a child and you're not. You're an adult and I'm sorry." Right. And he says to him, "You don't have to be sorry." Right. And I think for the first time there was the character actually says it out loud. "I got to stop treating you like a child." And I just think that from here forward, I expect it'll be a little bit differently portrayed.
Hey, I have a question, and this is for anybody listening who's got a DVR who can send screenshots. In the scene in the barbecue shop, Carl shoots the zombie in the head. I've tried to slow it down and go frame by frame, but I have AT&T Uverse, and either there's a way to do it with the remote.
Did you say barbershop or barbecue shop?
Barbecue shop.
Barbecue shop, yep.
There's something that doesn't go, there's something wrong with the way the gun is fired. And I tried to slow it down to see, so I've fired guns, ever since my military career, and, you pull the trigger, and the slide, it'll rock back, it ejects the shell, and you see the muzzle flash and all that stuff. Okay. I just want to know, this is just from a production standpoint. I remember reading, or someone had told me once, that kids aren't allowed, minors aren't, maybe it's just a network TV show, TV thing, I'm not sure. But minors aren't either allowed or it's severely frowned upon to show minors firing a weapon. And it was something we had talked about with the two girls in the prison scene when they shoot the woman in the head. Yep. But you don't actually see them. You see the shit, you see the gun, and then you see. and you draw your own conclusion. But a couple instances in this show, it didn't look like that was an actual gun firing blanks that Chandler Riggs had. And so I just wonder if anybody knows or anybody's able to take a screenshot. It kind of looked like it was just something where a little spark of flame would come out the end, and then they would just throw a sound effect on top of it. And like I said, it's just...
You think maybe it was CGI'd? In other words, he pointed the gun and clicked it, and maybe it had a cap in it or something, but then they went in and did it up in the CGI.
In the barbecue shop, it does look like you hear the bang and you see him move his hand like the gun's gone off, but I don't see the slide move, and you don't see the shell get ejected. And I swear, the way I've slowed it down, it doesn't look like he's actually pulling the trigger. It looks like his finger stays where it is, and I just wonder if that's a thing. If there's so I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
If anybody can do screenshots and send it to our Facebook page, I'd love to see if that's true or not. I've done a Google search and I keep coming up with all these bizarre things that aren't what I'm looking for at all. So
that sounds like Google. The one thing that in that panel to panel or panel to screen article, they had that sequence was exactly from the comic. And in fact, it went exactly like that, where Rick is holding him off. He puts the hatchet in his head. It doesn't go sink down deep enough, and Carl has to shoot him, and Rick yells at him. And I mean, it's literally right from the comic. But it was done a little differently in that, and it did strike me as a little pretty dangerous when, Carl shoots that zombie while his father's standing there holding him off. There's maybe 6 inches from.
I thought the exact same
and
thing.
And it's like, man, you got to have some good aim to hit that target and not hit your dad. And in the comic, they did a little differently, and it takes the zombie is on the ground, and Rick is up pushing down on it, and so he's shooting down at the ground, and Rick's up. So it was much safer. It was much less chance of there being a mistake. So, I don't know if this plays into what you're asking, but maybe they were going to handle that scene differently and then decided after shooting it to put it this way, and they didn't have him shooting a gun, or I don't know. Well, it looked normal to me. It looked like all the other gun shooting in the show to me, so I didn't notice it.
Well, the other time when he's got the 3 that fall on him, the last one that he gets the gun right underneath the thing's neck and pulls the trigger. Again, there's something that doesn't seem right with that, and I just wonder. I'm just interested in what kind of what they did with it.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's your ugly?
My ugly was a good ugly. And that was Michonne's evolution. I just thought that was the star of the whole episode. To see her basically, completely shutting back down, and then, I've heard people argue about the whole thing with the walkers and taking her pets, and how would that ultimately really keep the zombies from bothering her or whatever. And it's like, dude, we're watching a show about zombies. Come on, give me a break. You know what I mean? And it was just so cool because when they introduced her in was it the beginning of season 3, I think, right? Was her introduction. So. And we only got the pets for like 1 or 2 episodes, and even then it was just there were little bits because the part with her and Andrea was never a feature part. And then the governor's guys find them, and she just turns and chops their heads off, and that's it. And I always felt like, man, those were the coolest things
they were
ever. Yep. And like even in the comic, it was like so brief, So I was glad to see him come back. Just as a little side note too. Denai talked about it in the Talking Dead interview afterwards, because I didn't pay attention to it. But who's the host on that show?
Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick. He asked, who were those zombies? And she said those were governor's men. And she did that on purpose. She chose, because he asked, did she just randomly choose? And she said, no, she chose 2 guys that were governor's guys so that, she would have that as another little dig, kind of. I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, so it was great, really pumped to see them back, to see her with them. And then, to see that character just shutting back down and becoming what she was before. And then the awesome metaphorical metaphor for that being, she's walking in that troop of zombies, that flock of zombies, and she's becoming one of the Walking Dead. And
well, she sees that girl. She's that woman walking next to her.
She's become it. We see it, but she doesn't see it until that other girl comes up, and all of a sudden it's like looking at a mirror.
Yeah.
And she's like, and of course after that dream and all, she's like realizing, okay, I gotta snap out of this. I gotta choose to live, because I'm dead. Like this. If I go back to the way I was, I'm dead. Right. And realistic, really dead, and also, metaphorically dead. So anyway, that I just thought was awesome, and it was great too to see her track them down, and then the emotion on her when she sees them through the window. I think she's a really good actress, and I think she, she, and that sequence, the fruit, what'd you call it? I think you tweeted the fruit ninja?
Fruit ninja
tornado, man. That was awesome. And there's another great little piece of information from that Talking Dead interview, and that she said that they originally budgeted for 8 kills in that sequence. She's walking with 23 walkers. Okay. The budget called for her to be able to kill 8. So that's what they planned on. And of course, Nick Cotero is a producer as well as was the director of this episode. And so when they were doing the shot, they said that she just got so into it that and he didn't yell cut, because she was like bringing so much emotion that he didn't say it. So she just kept going. And he shot it, and he made the call to extend it to, I think it's 12 or 13 or something like that she ends up killing. So yeah, I mean, it was really I guess it was a really emotional sequence. Another side note, by the way, do you listen to the spin-off show that Walking Dead cast has on comics now? Gracie, Lou, and Mr. Blog, they do a review of the comic every week.
No.
So yeah,
I'll have to check it out.
It's called Under the Comics Cover and covers. And Gracie Lou has been a kind of a fan of their show and has gotten involved in the show and now does this co-hosting. She actually is one of the zombies in that sequence.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So props to Gracie Lou's zombie. But anyway. So yeah, that scene was just amazing. The dream sequence, as we already talked about, was amazing. But just the evolution, just the plus I loved when she went in, and again, right from the comic, although it wasn't Herschel's head, it was Tyrese's head. But she goes back to the whole. I mean, she was gone. She had left, and then she comes back to do 2 things. One is to get the 2 pets. And then the other is to put Herschel to rest. And then, and she doesn't just stab him. She then pulls the thing out and reaches down and touches his head. And I don't know. I just thought it was really heart-wrenching. It was really touching. So just thought that. So my ugly is the whole Michonne storyline in that episode. I just thought it was really, really well done, well acted, well written, well shot.
So my ugly is, I had a different take on the Herschel thing, and I forgot about her doing. I got to go back and read the comics, but I forgot about her doing that with Tyrese. But I didn't like that with Herschel. I thought it was actually I took that as being like I get the tenderness behind it and whatever, but I thought it was disrespectful to Herschel's character to have his head still going like a dryland guppy laying on the ground like that. Herschel was a great character, and he was like the Yoda of the group, and I wish they had just let it go. I didn't like that sequence. That for me, I didn't like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that she was, being consistency in the show would be that the heads still remain alive and animated.
So
because you got like the Doctor's tanks and his aqua tanks, whatever, his aquariums, so the heads do historically. We've had in the episode, was it one of the Governor episodes where the heads are on the ground still chomping? Yeah. They go into this camp, not the camp, but the survivalist cabin, and I think there's heads in there.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep.
So I think that they kind of plus again it was in the comic, but I think they were trying to be consistent in terms of that. So to me it made sense. And Michonne is the one that steps up to do the dirty work when it needs to be done. She's hard as nails, and she will do that. You know what I mean? And that she took out Penny. She puts Herschel to rest. It's nasty, and I agree it's tough. But in my feeling, it wasn't disrespectful. It was respectful because, and they did a really interesting thing too because they juxtaposed that. Oh, there's that word.
I was
ding,
wondering
ding, ding.
Only a couple minutes left in the podcast, and he gets it in.
They juxtaposed it with a shot of the governor's dead head.
Yes.
Now it's attached to his body. But she doesn't put that to sleep. She doesn't put that to rest.
Well, that was the thing. I was when I saw him. So first of all,
yeah, you thought his eye was going to open up, right?
well, first of all, my theory from before was that we never saw the governor take one to the head, right. So he'll be coming back. I got that one wrong. But I was kind of hoping that when she was putting together pets, that he was going to end up being one of her pets. I thought that would have been awesome.
That would have been hilarious. That would have been awesome. Yeah, but I think they were just trying to say that out of respect for Herschel, she put him to rest, and out of disrespect for the governor, she's going to let him become a zombie, and that's what I took away from that sequence.
That's interesting.
A couple other quick little things that I saw that I liked. I loved the pudding find. And I thought it was pretty funny when he's up on that. And again, another great sequence. No words. He's sitting up on top of the roof, looking over the neighborhood, eating a big, huge bucket tub of chocolate pudding, and there's this god-awful, creepy zombie hand sticking out of the window. He's like not paying any attention to it.
Somebody needs to take that sequence and voice over Bill Cosby in a Jello brand pudding commercial. I think it would be hysterical.
I think you tweeted that you thought it was bad, but I really liked that he puked after all those zombies were on that zombie pig pile. I mean, that again, I thought was a great thing. Here's this, he's just survived this. He's just killed these 3 zombies. He's just done this huge, mature thing and fought off these guys and survived. And then he stands up and, reminder, you're 12 and this is disgusting and you've never done anything like this before. Puke. It was like it kind of like knocked it back down again, for me. I thought that was pretty funny. It would have been better if he'd done that after the pudding, though. But or at least it would have been more dramatic.
Yeah, then it would have been Walking Dead meets Stand By Me.
Yeah. And then we talked a lot already about the Rick saying you're a man now and I'm sorry, and Carl's response and you don't have to be, and blah blah blah. But we can't not talk about that last line. When there's a knock on the door and he says, turns to Carl, he looks through, and then he turns to Carl and says, "This is for you." I love that. It was great because it was like, the kid needs some hope. Then putting the band back together, you know what I mean? and he just thinks that everything's gone, and she shows up, and it's like his dad saying, "Hey, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Maybe we're going to get through this." So,
and it's funny because
it's comical,
I didn't like it. And because it just felt like you had this serious moment, you had this great bonding moment between father and son, and the whole episode's come full circle, and then it just seemed to end like it reminded me of a Donald P. Belisario 80s TV show, somehow Magnum, like an ending of Magnum PI, and then there'd be Mike Post, music at the end. It's for you, bam, 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 bam. It just. So
sometimes who's that comedian? The guy. He used to be really liberal, and then he became really conservative. He's got the goatee. He talks real fast. He did NFL football for a while.
Oh, yeah, I know you're.
Sometimes you crack me up. Sometimes you sound like him. You whip out these names of these shows, and I'm like, what the heck? What century is that from? I don't even know what he's talking about. Belisario wrote this episode. I'm like, what the? Oh, sorry. I gotta watch my mouth. Anyway.
Yeah. So, but it's funny because I think it's funny because there's been some tweets or some Twitter handles that have been created as a response to that show. One was, I think, Zombie got my shoe, or Walker got my shoe. Pudding was another one. It's for you.
Yeah. Hashtag it's for you.
Yeah.
Well, I liked it. I thought it just gave a little bit of dark levity. I think it was his way of tipping his hat to his son, kind of, saying there's still hope. And, so I thought it was a nice little touch at the end.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the previews for next week. I'm looking forward to next week. It looks action-packed. It looks like my man Glenn might actually get rid of the skirt and put on some big boy pants. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. I just hope if I had to have a disappointment in this episode, it would be that they brought Michonne and them together. As much as I think it worked, I think they did it right. I liked it. I understand it, but I was kind of hoping we would get each of these different groups for a while, dragged out a little bit, so we'd see them work as little separate groups, and then near the end of the season have them come together. It made me feel like, oh my gosh, Michonne at the end of the first episode is already with Rick and Carl. Probably the end of next episode, you're gonna have another group of them together. By the third episode, they'll all be back together.
Yeah,
that's my fear, but we'll see. Hopefully, it won't play out like that. But, I'm looking forward to next week, too. I think it's going to be awesome.
And for those of you who haven't seen, I think, Kirk, you put it up on the Biters Facebook page, your Lone Michonne and
one of
and
our
Cub.
When we were on the Walking Dead cast, and we had to give our 4 or 5 wishes for the season, second half of the season. One of my top one is that they would surprise us and have Michonne have taken Judith. And we'd have our own little Walking Dead version of Lone Wolf and Cub. And so in celebration of that, I did a little art piece, a little homage, really, to Frank Miller's famous Lone Wolf and Cub cover, and did Michonne, Lone Michonne and Judith, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, you can see that at the it's up at the Facebook page. And
probably on our Z-Girl page.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. And I believe they're going to announce the winner over at Walking Dead Cast of the contest, the Walking Dead Hawaii, or I did the poster for that. And I believe they're doing it in this episode 132, which is the review of the same episode we're just reviewing now. That might actually be up now already. So if you heard about that and you went and entered for that, go to check and find out if you won that.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else?
I think we're out of time, but hopefully next week we'll get to talk about some of the comics. Issue 119, 120, we haven't touched on it. I believe 121 comes out tomorrow. So okay. Maybe we'll do a 3 for next week. But I think, given that we were away for so long, there was a lot of stuff to touch on here. So we'll get to that next week. So thanks to everybody tuning back in, and definitely check us out on Facebook. Like us there. Post up comments to the posts, and any suggestions, ideas. If you listen to us on iTunes, please be sure to review us. And we look forward to interacting with you guys.
And put us on. If you're on Twitter, put @Biters Podcast. Follow us, and like I said, we'll try to. Hopefully, we'll be live tweeting during each of the rest of the episodes for the rest of the season, so which is fun.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
All right, man. Cool.
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.